In the deserts of southern Israel lies a mountainous region that is called the Timnah Valley. Today, this area is known for its uniquely shaped sandstone glyphs. But more than 3,000 years ago, the Timnah Valley was the site of a vast network of copper mines. In the Timnah Valley, mining activity had taken place for a long time. Most of the mining operations occurred underground. The deepest is about 115 feet. They would hew circular shafts into the ground, and going down that shaft, they would cut steps into the side of the shaft. They would tunnel horizontally, where they extracted the copper and brought it back to the surface. In recent years, the Timnah mines have attracted attention because some believe that buried underground in one of these deep tunnels is the legendary lost treasure of the biblical King Solomon. Just a minute ago, the lost treasure of King Solomon was discovered. In the arid southern reaches of Israel, the Timnah Valley stretches across a landscape scattered with peculiar sandstone formations. What if the dusty corridors of Timnah are the final resting place of Solomon's legendary riches, hidden away from the world's prying eyes? Let's explore the hidden corners of history. Could the next discovery change everything we know about the past? The hunt for Solomon's lost treasures. More recently, these mines have caught people's attention for another reason. There are rumors that one of the old tunnels might hold the legendary treasure of the biblical King Solomon. This idea has fueled a lot of excitement and mystery around the area. According to the Old Testament, King Solomon was a wise and powerful ruler of Israel who lived around the 10th century BC. Many scholars believe Solomon was a real historical figure. He's often seen as a fascinating character because of all the stories about him in the Bible, which suggest he ruled a large kingdom. The Bible says his land stretched from the Euphrates River in the north to the River of Egypt in the south, which means he controlled a much larger area than what people first thought. As the sun set, a group of explorers found an old map inside a tree near the mine. The map showed secret tunnels that might lead to King Solomon's treasure. With just their torches lighting the way, they entered the mine, not knowing what dangers or wonders they would find inside. Solomon ruled over Israel for 40 years, ending his reign in 931 BC. By the time of his death, his legacy included a huge amount of gold and other treasures stored within his magnificent temple. But this wealth didn't last long. In 586 BC, the Babylonians attacked Jerusalem and looted the temple. When the Babylonians destroyed the temple in 586 BC, all its treasures were lost. Some ancient stories suggest these treasures were taken from Jerusalem and hidden in a secret location. This belief still exists, with many people convinced that the riches are still hidden somewhere, waiting to be found. For centuries, the tale of the lost treasure has captured the imagination of people around the world. It has inspired explorers and historians to try and piece together clues in the hopes of discovering these hidden riches. But this wasn't the only reason the story lives on. His lasting legacy and the mystery of the treasure keep people curious, proving our deep fascination with uncovering lost parts of history. In 1885, H.R. Haggard wrote a famous book called King Solomon's Mines. The story introduced the idea that the vast wealth was hidden in a huge underground mine. This has led many to wonder if the story could be true, and if so, where the treasure might actually be hidden. Among many ideas, the Timnah mines are often mentioned as the most likely place. The Timnah Valley is about 150 miles from Jerusalem, and its location makes it seem like it could be linked to old legends. With over 10,000 mining tunnels found there, Timnah appears to be a possible site for ancient hidden treasures. Over the years, many researchers have tried to prove that these mines are where the treasures might be buried. One of the earliest pieces of evidence for this theory came from archaeologist Nelson Glueck, who dug at Timnah in the 1930s. Glueck spent a lot of time studying the old copper mines and the places where the workers lived. During his work, he found pottery pieces that dated back to the 9th and 10th centuries BC, which matched the time when he lived. For Glueck, this was a big discovery, and he believed it could mean he had found the legendary mines. Solomon, one of the most renowned figures in the Bible, is best known for his extraordinary wisdom, immense wealth, and the majestic temple he built in Jerusalem, which became a central place of worship for the Israelites. He reigned over Israel during the 10th century BC, succeeding his father, King David. Under Solomon's rule, Israel experienced a golden age marked by peace, stability, and prosperity. His wisdom, famously exemplified in the biblical story of two women claiming the same child, earned him a reputation far beyond Israel's borders. Solomon's reign is often remembered as a pinnacle of Israel's cultural, religious, and economic achievement. He became king after his father, King David, who had united the tribes of Israel. His early rule was filled with promises of peace. His wisdom is highlighted in many stories, like the famous one where he solved the dispute between two women claiming to be the mother of a baby. By suggesting the child be split in half, he cleverly revealed the real mother, showing his ability to judge fairly. One of his biggest projects was building a temple in Jerusalem for worship. It was designed to be a beautiful structure, representing Israel's devotion to God. He used a lot of resources, bringing in cedar from Lebanon and hiring skilled workers. After 7 years, the temple was completed and was admired for its design and the use of gold and other precious materials. But this wasn't the most difficult part. He was also incredibly wealthy. The Bible says gold and riches poured into his kingdom through trade and gifts from other nations. His wealth allowed him to live a life of great luxury. He had thousands of horses and chariots, and he also had many wives, which later caused problems for both his personal life and his kingdom. Despite all his success, he faced challenges. His marriage to foreign women and his acceptance of their religions led to problems, as he strayed from the strict worship of one God. The Bible says this angered God and foretold that his kingdom would break apart after his death. But that wasn't the worst of it. His kingdom stretched over a large area, from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines and down to Egypt. This gave him control of important trade routes, making his kingdom even richer. However, to pay for his grand buildings and luxurious lifestyle, he had to heavily tax his people and even force some into labor. This caused unrest among the people, and many were not happy with him. By the end of his 40-year reign, he faced challenges from both inside and outside his kingdom. When he died in 931 BC, his kingdom eventually split in two, Israel in the north and Judah in the south, largely because of the seeds of discontent planted during his rule. But this wasn't the only legacy he left behind. Following the clues left behind, our adventure takes us further into the realms of history's greatest mysteries and legends. In the last several decades, numerous researchers have tried to prove that the Timna mines are, in fact, the hiding place of King Solomon's lost treasures. Some of the first evidence in support of this theory was found by an archaeologist named Nelson Glueck, who conducted a series of excavations at Timna in the 1930s. Nelson Glueck made a huge study of the copper mines, the smelting works, and also the camps of those that were there. Andrew, what he found underground was pottery dating from the 9th to 10th century BC. This was the exact time frame of the reign of King Solomon. For Nelson Glueck, he felt that he had discovered evidence of Solomon's mines. The story of how King Solomon used his resources to build a grand temple in Jerusalem is legendary. This temple was not just for religious purposes. It was a symbol of his dedication to his faith and his kingdom. He brought in the best materials for its construction, using high-quality limestone, cedar wood, and covering the inside walls with pure gold. He also filled the temple with beautiful copper items, showing how valuable copper was at the time. King Solomon ruled for 40 years, and when he died in 931 BC, he left behind a vast treasure of gold and other riches in the Grand Temple. But that wasn't the worst part. In 586 BC, tragedy hit when the Babylonians invaded Jerusalem, tearing down and looting the temple he had carefully built. While there isn't clear physical proof of the original temple, one important clue does stand out: the Tel Arad Ostraka 18, also called the House of Yahweh Ostrakon. This ancient writing specifically mentions the temple in Jerusalem, giving us a rare bit of evidence about its existence. Although there hasn't been much archaeological work in the area, most historians agree that this sacred place was real. Records suggest that a central shrine was built in Jerusalem by the late 10th century BC, but it was destroyed in the 6th century BC after failed attempts to rebel against the Babylonian Empire. This disaster not only ruined the city but also left the nearby areas, including the Holy Yahweh Shrine on Mount Zion, in ruins. Archaeological evidence strongly backs up these stories of destruction. The Bible, in books like 2 Kings 25 verses 1 to 17 and 2 Chronicles 36 verse 18, describes how the shrine was plundered, with precious metals and sacred items being taken. Strangely, Babylonian records don't mention this final siege or the looting that followed. However, in a surprising twist, some of these stolen treasures, such as gold and silver items, were returned by the Persian ruler Cyrus. This fits with his policies to help the people of Judea rebuild. The fate of one of the most famous treasures, the Ark of the Covenant, remains a mystery. Even today, historians and scholars are still puzzled by its disappearance. The Ark is mentioned only briefly in the Hebrew Bible and by the prophet Jeremiah, leaving its final story untold and lost in history. At first glance, a simple wooden chest covered with gold-colored paper, filled with broken stones, a rod, and a clay jar, wouldn't have impressed the followers of Marduk or Nabu in the grand city of Babylon. They likely wouldn't have thought twice about discarding these items when they were burning down the city, happily using the materials from the Ark of the Covenant for other purposes. When it came to the sacred temple and the Ark, this chest represented the strong power of the Judite God. Destroying it would seem like a natural step during a military campaign aimed at crushing multiple rebellions. It was a clear message that the defeated people and their gods were completely helpless. When Solomon's temple was destroyed in 586 BC, all of its sacred treasures disappeared from history. Old stories suggest that his riches were taken out of Jerusalem and hidden away. Some people even believe that these treasures are still hidden today. As for the Holy Chest, a collection of ancient wisdom called the Maskut Kalim is said to contain hints about the locations of his sacred vessels and other items. There are two versions of this mysterious document, one printed in the 17th century and another carved into ancient Margul tablets. Things get even more interesting with the Book of Ezekiel. It's believed that the entire book was carved onto marble tablets and kept in the tomb shrine of the prophet Ezekiel in Kefil, Iraq. To add to the mystery, there's a 17th century manuscript, supposedly based on much older texts, pointing to a tradition that spans hundreds of years. As we close the chapter on Solomon's legendary rule and mythical treasures, let's turn our focus to the subsequent rulers who inherited his complex legacy. Amazingly, a collection of 68 plaques was secretly moved from Iraq to Beirut and later smuggled into Israel during the 1950s. Today, these plaques are kept in the respected Yad Khan-Savi Institute in Jerusalem. The British Museum continues to debate their age, saying they could be anywhere from 300 to 2,000 years old. Some researchers believe that this story comes from the 7th or 8th century CE, based on clues found within the text itself. The tale becomes even more interesting when it talks about angels like Shamshiel and Sariel, who supposedly hid the temple treasures of Solomon in various places, mainly in Jerusalem and Babylon. These special spots were written down on a bronze tablet, setting up the idea of an eternal treasure hunt. The treasure mentioned in the tablet is described in a way that makes it seem grand and almost unbelievable. It's not just large in size but also includes a huge number of items, tens of thousands of garments and lampstands. This paints a picture of a treasure so vast it seems limitless. What makes the story even more fascinating is the origin of these treasures. Some of them are said to be made from gold that was found in the Garden of Eden, a place of legendary importance. Others are said to be carved by Moses himself from the sacred Mount Sinai, which gives them a special, almost heavenly, quality. The story also talks about jewels that were placed into musical instruments Solomon received from 3 different kinds of demons, each with their own interesting stories. The text feels like a collection of myths that have been pieced together in a scattered way. For example, silver horns are mentioned, found in different locations, suggesting that the stories go beyond what's written on the tablet, hinting at a deeper history. The Hebrew Bible is often referred to as a source for these amazing items, which shows how important they were culturally and historically. The story even includes magical trees made from a rare type of blood-red gold called parvain, which are said to grow fruit made entirely of gold. These artifacts are described in a way that makes them seem both beautiful and mysterious, turning the search for them into a great adventure. According to certain ancient beliefs, none of these treasures will be uncovered until a specific prophetic moment, said to occur during the final messianic redemption. This belief doesn't just suggest the treasure is hidden, it implies that its discovery is part of a grand, divine plan. The idea that the treasure is tied to such a pivotal and mystical event adds an entirely new layer of suspense and intrigue to the search. The story of King Solomon's lost treasure has fascinated people for many years. In 1885, this story became even more popular thanks to H.R. Haggard's famous book, King Solomon's Mines. The book imagined that his treasure was hidden in an ancient underground mining system. One of the most intriguing potential locations for his lost treasure is the Timna Mines. These ancient mines are located less than 150 miles from Jerusalem, which is close enough to make historians and archaeologists wonder if there could be a link to his wealth. The area, known as the Timna Valley, is home to an incredible network of over 10,000 mining tunnels. This vast system of underground passages provides plenty of room for speculation, leading many to believe that these tunnels might have once hidden the legendary treasure of King Solomon. Over the years, many researchers have tried to find proof that these mines could really hold his lost wealth. One of the first to take this idea seriously was an archaeologist named Nelson Glueck, who began digging in Timna during the 1930s. He found pottery that dates back to the 9th and 10th centuries BC, around the time King Solomon ruled. Could the legendary treasure of King Solomon still be hidden in the Timna Valley, waiting to be discovered? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.